Alright, so I want to set up some views now to put onto my sheets. And so the first thing I'm going to do before I even think about the views is get my sheet size. So I've actually realised that generally when you've started a new project in Revit, it'll give you a default sheet with this awful, Autodesk title block that's also way too big. Generally, it's AI. So normally for these sorts of projects you won't want a sheet size that big. So I would normally just delete that sheet. So if this is a project browser, sheets all, and that default sheet there, I'm going to right click and delete. And then I'm going to right click again on that sheets all and go to new sheet. I suppose I'll save it. Okay, so then I'm going to click load and go to this time, the Revit library on the P drive. So I'll show you one last time. Instead of using my shortcut, we'll just browse to Revit library, and guys can, and then go to title blocks and find the page size that I want. And for now, it's probably a good idea to use one that has a title block. But notice I've set up a lot of pages that are just blank page sizes. And they're really useful because later on when you start using presentation software like InDesign and Photoshop more, you'll probably want to do your labelling there. And don't worry, InDesign is easy. If you haven't used InDesign before, it is the easiest program you'll ever learn for what you need to do, because you're essentially just placing images and putting a bit of text on. It's simple. So so when I teach you InDesign, that's what we'll be doing. Yeah, I will be. Yeah. So for those, it's good that you've got blank pages, and you should be thinking about concept and presentation graphics and trying to get this technical stuff not to always come up. So again, that's for later, but just wanted to point that out. For this though, because you're going to be doing it all with Revit, you can use one of these title blocks that I've set up. We've got ones that have the TAFE logo here and some others. So choose whichever you like, but I'm going to use A3. I don't mind what page size you do, even if it says something in the brief. I don't remember. I probably will have a page size suggested. No. Good. Okay. So you can use whatever page size you want. But it's good to think about what size makes sense for your project. And for a building this size, A3 should be okay. At most, we'll do A2. But I'll go for A3. So these ones with DC in the name, it's Design Centre Enmore, that's all it means. And so these are a couple that I made. This one's probably the slightly nicer one. But you can try out different title blocks and change them if you want to. So let's say I decide I want a different page or a different title block. The trick, or the way you do it, is select the page after you've made it, go to Edit Type, and then Load, and choose a different one. So that's our old logo, which I can't stand anymore. So I'm going to keep that page selected, and then to go back to the previous one, I don't need to reload it. It's already loaded, so I can just choose it from the list now. So I'll stick with this one, and then I can keep making additional pages the same way, right-clicking on Sheets All, New Sheet, and then choose the one you want, or load a different one. So now that I've got my page size, I'm going to go back to one of the views that I want, and it's always good to set it up a little bit in the view in your project browser before you try and place it on the page. So notice as I zoom out there, you can see I've got lots of things showing around the plan that I don't really want on the page. So I'll get rid of this model line, I don't even want to have that, and then I've got elevation symbols. We don't want to see those at all, so when you select them, you can right click and then hide in view category, and I'll start telling you some of the shortcuts because it's good at this stage. So VH, view hide, hides the whole category. I'm going to have both of these sections on my sheets, but I'm going to make another one because you'll probably have more than I do, just so you can see what to do with those. So Okay, so I've got a few different sections, and I only want a couple of these to show on my sheets in the end. So I'm going to get the ones that I don't want. Maybe I don't want to have this one on my sheet, and so I'm going to hide it in view by element instead of category. So category would hide all of the sections, but elements just hides the one that's selected. So I'll choose that on the right-click menu, but if instead you want to do it with the shortcut, it's EH instead of VH. So element hide, EH. And then the reference planes, VH. So I have the category. No, just VH, yep, no enter. Yeah, AutoCAD you've got the enter, but no, with Revit shortcuts usually you don't know them. So now I can just adjust the sections a bit more because they're bigger than they need to be. In other words, that line and the arrow comes out further from the plan than I want it to. So I'll bring it back in a bit closer just so that it doesn't take up as much room on the page. This one too. So I'm just trying to make the drawing neat, essentially. And then the final thing I'll show you is that you've got the crop region button down the bottom. And if you know about cropping, it always uses that little symbol, which if you're not sure what that means, it's 2 squares. That's a good thing to remember. The 2 squares, it's an old thing, the masons use that and all sorts of people use that symbol. But in photography and other fields, those squares are used for cropping things. So whenever you see those 2 little set square things, that's what they're for. So the little set square thing with the light bulb unhides the cropping region. And we can see it and bring that in. And it's really helpful to do this in all of your views actually, because probably not obvious at first, but that is essentially your viewport as well. So, because you know AutoCAD, you know what that is. You've got a viewport when you go onto your page, and the difference in Revit is that you can even get to that without putting it on the page. So that crop region is a really good thing. And so notice I've just tried to bring it in so that it's going around the plan, showing the things I want. Oh yeah, so the sections are annotation, and they're not included in the crop region. Even though they are kind of a bit. If I bring it right in, you'll see it will. Oh no, it's not doing it there, but they sometimes get included. But yeah, but basically because they're annotation, they're not considered part of the normal cropping. There's another cropping for that, but you don't need to do that yet. So yeah, so sections generally aren't included. So now if we go down to the sheet, then I'm going to find that view, ground floor, click and drag, and then place it on the page. And you can see it fits, but it's probably a bit small. So you could think about having that on a different scale. So I'll try 1 to 50, and I've got the view still selected, so in properties, I'll change it to 1 to 50, and you're going to see it's going to become bigger, but then we can see, well, it's actually going to go slightly over the page, so that's not going to work as it is on A3. And this is something, it's a really handy thing actually to work out the right page size and also the right scale for the space or the building that you're working on. So if I really wanted this to be 1 to 50, I've got a couple of options. I can either make the page size bigger, I could make it A2, or I can go and crop that view a bit more. We don't really need to see the stairs, all of the stairs there, and I can bring it in so I don't see all of the backyard, and then I'll hide the crop region again, and then on the page, it's of course got those changes, and then I can just make it fit. Well, you'd have another plan that shows the whole thing. And that's maybe, actually that's a good thing I can show you. So here you can see, it's okay, but the section lines now are obviously going off the page. So, if I've got that view selected, I can activate the view, and then it's just like AutoCAD, where you can switch between model space and paper space. And so now I can do all the things I was doing before. I can get that crop region back and bring it in a bit more, and I can adjust those section lines and get them on the page. That's a good thing. And maybe make this one a bit shorter as well. Okay, so I'll deactivate the view, and to deactivate the view, the easiest way is to right-click and deactivate. Or, just like AutoCAD, double-click outside the viewport. So double-click on the view, and it's like going to model space. Double-click on the page, it's going to paper space. But again, activate view, or right-click and deactivate view, does the same thing. So I'm just moving the tag there so it's on the same, it's on the page. And I'll just show you that again, because when you go to drag that that title, sometimes it'll take the whole view with it. So I'm just trying to move that ground floor label or tag, and the whole view's moving. So the trick there is to just deselect everything, then you can move the tag separately. And that can be a bit fiddly at first, so it's worth trying that. So I've got my plan showing the whole interior floor space, so that's a good thing. But now I maybe want to have a plan that shows the whole thing, the whole site. So I'll show you that. If I try to drag on ground floor again, it's going to give me a message telling me that I can't do that. So the basic rule is you can't have the same view more than once on your sheets. So what do? If you want it more than once, duplicate. That's it. And generally, if you're not sure, use duplicate with detailing. So now I've got a copy, and I can change this copy to 1 to 100, and then choose different graphics even, like we go to hidden line or whatever you want. And I'll bring the cropping back out so that I can see. Okay, so that I can see the whole site. Okay, and then I can go back onto the same sheet and then drag that copy onto the page, and it works fine. So yeah, so you can have as many views and copies of your plans as you want, as long as you duplicate them. And that's a great thing about Revit. And you can have then your furniture layout plan showing your FF&E with the furniture showing, and then another copy of the same plan with the furniture hidden for your electrical or something like that. So yeah, it's a brilliant system. And then, so I'll do the next level on, well, in fact, what I would do is put the next level on the same page, and I can show you something about that. Yeah, that's it, yeah. So, level 1 can now be set up the same way, and so you can go through and do all the same things, but if you want to have the same basic setup, you can use what's called a view template. When you right-click on that view name, and go create view template from view, and I'll call this, my plan. I'm just going to click OK. So now I go to level 1, right-click, and then this time apply template properties. And there's my plan. And there we are. Now, I haven't put a material onto this floor, that's why it looks different. But just to make it look better, I'm going to choose the floor I've made for the bottom level, and then you can see the graphics are very similar, except I've deleted my shaft, so this is not related, but I was going to put the shaft in. And get it to go from the ground floor, of course, up to there. So now I can see my stairs. Don't worry about the colour being awful, but oh yeah, there's one good thing though. I've got the ground floor now coming through with those grey lines, and you probably have seen that. That's because of the underlay setting. So you've got this underlay option. You can set that to none, just to turn that off completely. Yeah. So I don't have much on this level, but it's enough to show you how to put it on a sheet. So again, the sections need to be hidden individually because they were hidden by element, not by category. So the things hidden by category have come from the ground floor, but not the things hidden by element, because that's a unique view setting. So all of that little adjustment that you make to the views can then help a lot when you... Oh yeah, now the cropping. I don't want to show you the way... There is a way of cropping from one page to another, but I don't want to show you that because it's a bit of a technical thing. So I'm just going to manually crop this view like I've done before. So now back to my page. The first one, I want to show you something about the way you can lay out your plans. I'm going to put level 1 above level 2. I'm sorry, or above ground floor. And notice when you're dragging it, it does give you a little projection line to show when they're in line. So notice that dashed line's coming up. So that shows us when they're lined up. Right, so what I wanted to really show you though is the order, because it's not obvious and it took me a while to realise how they should be, the order that the views should be. So if you were putting two plans on a sheet, which one would you have at the bottom? Ground, you'd think. But then how do you read? Top to left, top to bottom, left to right. So what I used to do when I first started uni, I used to put ground floor at the top. And then I got in trouble by the people who, back then you had people whose job it was just to check drawings. And I got pulled up straight away and they said, no, don't be stupid. It goes in the order you build it, which is again the way you were saying. So ground at the bottom and then you stack them up. And that's the convention. But then when you have sheets, if you're going in pages, the ground floor would be your first page. The first floor would be your second page, and in that order. But when they're on the same page, it's not the way you read, it's the way it's built. So again, lower levels on the bottom, higher levels on the top. So that's one of those conventions that's good to follow. And again, I can activate the view and fine-tune these things. So it's up to you how you want to show it. I don't mind if you have to do it at 1 to 100 to fit it on the page, that's okay. But if you want to have a go at cropping it and making it A3 and 1 to 50, that's fine as well, up to you. So maybe I'll show you what I would really do if I was doing, if I had to do A3 and then I wanted to show the plans at 1 to 50, I would then have another sheet with the site plan. So notice you've got a site floor plan already there. It's at 1 to 200. This building doesn't need to be that small, so we can make that 1 to 100. And here I'm just going to go straight to cropping and show you that you can also use that approach to crop out things like the elevation symbols. It saves you hiding them. I generally do both, but you can do one or the other. So I'm going to bring this right in around my boundary. Notice it's ignoring the dimensions because they're annotation. And there I can hide things like the reference planes, and then a lot of my dimensions will go anyway. And the sections, same thing. And it wouldn't be bad to have the sections lines showing. And I always like to break them in the middle. And again, hide the ones that I'm not going to show. That'll do. Okay, so now if I go back to that page, any of them, I can put the site plan on, and that's a good way of showing the whole property boundary, which I've obviously messed around with and I have to fix anyway. So then, we've got a few interesting things actually. The stairs, I can make them go away, but sometimes if you're not sure about all the issues there, you can just hide them. And here's because my shaft is too high, that's definitely the issue there. So it's going, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that's good enough for the site plan. Maybe the boundary, sorry, I just can't stand looking at that. should be back there, and then this at the same time can finally get lined up. It will, to be honest, in the brief, because it doesn't even say floor plans, as long as you do a floor plan or two, that's enough to pass. But yeah, if you want to do it the correct way, a site plan's always good. And so notice I'm changing things quickly in this view, but now if I go back to the sheet, of course, all those changes come through. So you don't need elevation, so that's good, we could skip that, but then you need sections. And so here, I'm going to go back to my floor plan and make sure I know which section's which. So this one, if I select it, you can even look in properties and find out what the name is. So there you can see it's section 4. So I'd often give that a name, like section AA, just to make it clearer. Yeah. And then now you can see it in the browser. It's easier to work out which one it is. How are we going to type it? So then I'll get the other one and make that section BB. Yeah. And so then in one of my sheets, I can drag, I'll start with section AA. So you can see that's 1 to 100, which is kind of good here because it lines up with that site plan. When it gives me the line, there it is. Right, so you can see that projects exactly off the location of the walls in the plan. But unfortunately for you, in the brief it says sections of 1 to 50. So it would be better if I don't have it on this sheet. So instead I'm going to go back and change the scale to 1 to 50. That's right, we could do A2 if you want to. So if you want to do A2, that's fine. But you should be, a building like this, you would normally do it at A3 if you can, because you can print it on lots of different printers and it's not a very big building. But just by cropping it, so using the cropping region there, I can bring it right back and then I should be able to fit it. I don't even need to show the stairs there really because they're not part of the design. So I'll bring that right back and then maybe bring it up at the bottom, down at the top, and then just like before, hide the sections that I don't need and set, you know, graphics realistic or something like that that looks a bit better. And then back onto the, I'll go to a blank sheet and then that should fit much better. So it just fits, but the problem is the levels are going off. So look, I think for this one, I don't mind if you just hide the levels. For presentation drawings, I think they make it a bit too technical anyway. So you can just hide that whole category. That makes it a cleaner drawing as well. So I'll hide the reference planes the same way. And I'm going to even hide that section, even though I'm going to use it. I don't need to see it in this view. So I think it'd be a good thing actually to have that section, if it's such a big view, by itself on a page like this. A bit of white space doesn't hurt. You don't always have to fill the whole page up. And remember, you're going to have notes and things around that quite often, so having a bit of room around the view is actually a good thing. Oh, that's right, yeah, so that's simple. So you can just select the title block and click on the blue parts and put in what you want. So and you can put letters into these references. So I can put an A there. And what that means is, back on my plan now, puts an A in. Which I know might seem like a little thing, but that's a huge thing. Doing the referencing in a big project is a lot of work. And I can even turn that simple one over here to see the A on both ends if you want. So break that in the middle and it's starting to look like a neat floor plan. And of course on my sheet, that's all getting updated. So there it's fixed, to tidy that up a little bit, but on the site plan as well, that same referencing already done. Yes, I'll just do one more section and then because sort of expecting it's getting late. So, okay, so I'll put section BB on, and you can see it's a mess. That's why I like to tidy it up first. You can tidy it up here, but sometimes it's easier to go back to the view and tidy it up as much as you can there. So just like I've been doing, hiding things, using the crop region to bring it in, changing the scale to what it should be, getting the graphics to what you want, just making it more manageable generally. I don't need the levels here because I didn't use them before, so I'll hide those too. And there we go, starting to get a nice clean drawing. That's it, I won't even worry about hiding the reference planes for this one. The reference planes don't print, so you don't have to hide them. And there we are, that's fitting much better. And so you can leave the section there if you want to, but you don't really need to show section references in section views. It's optional. Oh yeah, so then perspectives. So we're not going to have time to look at the rendering. You can put the rendering on a page, definitely, but all I'm going to do is put the unrendered perspectives on. So then you can set the graphics to what you want. Realistic or even ray trace can sometimes be good to try at this point because it's like a mini or quick render. I probably shouldn't have chosen that because it takes a minute, even though it's a quicker one. Yeah, so I'm going to just, oh no, yes I know, yeah, so we have to adjust the lighting anyway, so maybe don't worry about ray trace, but it can be interesting. So with realistic though, I'll get an okay view. So it's called 3D View 4. To make it easier for myself to remember, I'm going to rename that view, just right clicking and then rename, and we'll call that ground floor interior. Study is what it was like a reading room. It's a long name, but that's okay. And now if I go back to one of the sheets, then I can drag that view onto the sheet and place it. Now, I don't want to show you how to change the length of a tag, because that's a bit painful, so all I'm going to do is change the name so it's not as long. I'll take off the reading room. So you don't want the name to go over 2 lines, otherwise you've got to do some things. So that view now obviously has a size, but because it's perspective, you don't set the size using the scale. So perspectives technically don't have a scale, so you need to change the size. Instead of with the scale, you use size crop. So you can do this on the sheet. When you select the view, go to size crop, and the best option when you're changing the size on a page is to go to scale lot proportions, then type in the size you want. So I'm just going to guess here because I know that an A3 page is 297, so let's say that's close to 300. So if I want it to be roughly half of that page, the height would be 150, and then you'll see the width is going to change in proportion with that. That's what the lock proportions means. But I want it to be a little bit less because I've got this title block at the bottom, so I'll make it maybe 130, and that'll be about half of the blank area. So I'll click OK, and you can see perspective changes size. So that's how you change the size of perspective views, and maybe that's still a bit too big. Oh yeah, I'm going to do it again. Right, so you select the view, size crop, and then scale lock proportions, and then type in what you want. So maybe I'll try 100 mil, because 130 was too big. And you can also click apply to see the change without using the settings. So that's probably about the right size, and then I can fit another view in there. Maybe another couple of views. So I'll get another perspective now. So I've only got the lower level really set up here, so I'll just get some more from there. Yeah, maybe this will do. So I'll get a longer view. I've got some planting in there. I'm just adjusting the field of view there. And I'll go to realistic so I can see my plants. And then, so these are just all from the default library. And so again, I'm going to give that view a different name. So I'll call this interior courtyard. And then back to the page, drag it on, place it, and then go to size crop. And this time I'll make it a bit higher, maybe 180 something. That's still too big. Maybe 140. So I could lay this out much better, but that gives you all the steps to be able to get those different sorts of views on a page. And you can also do non-perspective views. So if you want a view like this, the ones you've been working in, they can go on a page. That's sometimes good. And you can crop those. So if I go to another one, yeah. So I think I've shown you section boxes. I won't go through that now, but if you've got a view with a section box, they make it a much easier thing to crop in 3D. And you can crop back into the building, start to see the interior. Yeah. Yeah, you'd wish, well, have a look at 3D printing. The technology is interesting. A guy who was one of the best IT people we've ever had working here, he left about 5 years ago to set up his own rapid prototyping business, and he's got the most amazing 3D printers I've ever seen. They actually do metal. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So I'm finally coming around to it being a thing we can use, but we'll see. I'm going to try and get the laser printers working for you again. Not the laser printers, the laser cutters working for you again, but it's still early days for that technology. And yeah, when you get into it, it's really interesting. So yeah, so we've got there the view, how I want it, pretty much. I'll maybe hide the levels. And remember, the section box is just another thing you can hide. So that might work. And so the final thing I really wanted to show you there is that these views are not perspective views. So that means they do have a scale. And that's how you set the size of these. Even though they're 3D views, they're non-perspective. So I'll rename this and call it axo, or axonometric. So that can go onto a page. So maybe I'll make some room for it here, it might fit. Almost. If I juggled it, I could get it to fit, and that might be alright. So yeah, and then you can turn the titles off. If you don't want those tags, you don't always need them. So up here you can just go no title. And I'll just do that for a couple of these just so it looks a bit neater. That'll do. So I think that's all the views you need. Yeah, so sections, perspectives, you should have plans as well. And don't forget the files. We'll maybe go over that more next week. Yeah, so you need to give me the working files, but if they're too big, you can't upload them in Moodle. So you need to at least put the PDF onto Moodle, and if your Revit file's too big, you'll need to just give me that in class. And I'm not going to be checking that Revit file very thoroughly. It's just to show that you've got the working files along with the PDF. Really. That's it. So yeah, that should give you enough.